Hi everyone and welcome to TOOP TV. Well, we all know Adelaide's a great place to live in, but so does the rest of the nation now, once we've been named one of the most livable cities to be in. Stay tuned and we'll tell you more later in the show. Also today we take a look at iTOOP innovation and find out how it can help you find the perfect property. In SA's finest, we go to North Adelaide to look at the gorgeous Chase Crown home, perfect for the entertainer. And at the end of the show, we'll be answering all your queries, so stay tuned. Well, I hope you survived the mini heat wave we're experiencing at the present moment. But come this weekend, the weather is going to be a lot cooler for our opens. Later in the show, we're going to get our market update with our RP data analyst, Cameron Cusher. But for now, let's take us to the inside story and why Adelaide is the best place to live.
Adelaide has always been a beautiful place to work, play and live. Now the rest of the country is starting to take notice. A national survey by the Property Council of Australia recently ranked Adelaide as the nation's most livable city.
Obviously on the good majority of the questions, South Australia clearly outperformed the national average, which was a great result and I think contributed quite significantly to us being labelled the most livable city in the country.
Good news must travel fast, with South Australia's current annual population growth well above the decade average.
Moving to Adelaide, possibly because it is a cheaper place to buy a house. Still, reasonably well priced at the moment, I think. To live in a city part of Melbourne, it is very expensive.
Oh, I think it's got a lot to offer in a lot of different aspects, whatever your interests are. And things are close to each other, easy to get to. I think the lifestyle's really good to suit lots of different people. It's a good place to live. You've got the beach and the hills and the vineyards.
Affordable housing and a tight rental market have also created a booming investors market within South Australia. This has seen not only interstate investors taking an interest in the local market, but also an increasing number of global buyers. While Adelaide is currently being advertised overseas as a great place to study, the rise in worldwide investors opens the window of opportunity to be promoted internationally as a prime investment location.
And if you would like to see the rest of that interview with Nathan Payne, you can watch that now on TOOP TV. Now, joining me in this studio today, I have the privilege of Greg Nybo, the REI SA current president. Welcome, Greg.
Hello, Mandy, and it's a pleasure to be on TOOP TV.
We're glad to have you with us today. There's so much happening out there at this current moment. First of all, I want to talk about floods. It's so prominent in Queensland, and Queensland are about to be hit this afternoon as well with a cyclone. What are your thoughts on the floods that could happen here in South Australia?
Well, firstly, to our Queensland cousins, it's just a dreadful time. South Australia is certainly not immune from natural disasters. In recent months, we've had two events. We've had the flooding of the Gawler River, which affected a lot of homes through the Virginia area, and a few months back, the lower lying areas of Murray Bridge also were affected. I think there's a very important place to play with local government authorities to ensure that any planning approvals are taking into account these situations.
So from your point of view, the infrastructure of Adelaide and the greater South Australia, how do you think that stacks up when it comes to this sort of thing?
Look, I think generally we're pretty well right. I think for those perhaps might be watching the show who've got a longer memory than I to the 1956 floods, there was a lot of work done on the locks and the weirs in the Murray, and I think that we are fairly well stead with regards to that. But again, the hydrology experts, with our growing population and new suburbs being opened up, need to take these issues into account.
Certainly. Well, our Queensland people, we're thinking of them today as we have been over the last few weeks, and our prayers are with them. But now to our current marketplace in South Australia. Where do you think we're going here?
Well, I think the South Australian market is back to perhaps a very traditional marketplace that is fairly steady as she goes. If you come off of 2010, certainly the volume of sales were down somewhat, but interestingly enough, the medium sale price still increased to from about $370 in 2009 to the low 400s. So we're still moving upwards, but it's almost a bit of a tale of two markets. The middle to upper end has been going particularly well. The lower end of the market, through recent rises of interest rates and the removal of the $4,000 state government boost, has slowed things off, and days on the market have certainly extended. I think the vendors need to be particularly cautious of their price point. There has been an unusually high volume of homes went on the market in the last quarter of 2010, and basically what that meant from a consumer's point of view, there was a wider choice to choose from. So the vendors need to be mindful that they are not an island, and when they go on the market, they're in a competitive environment.
Do you think the purchaser is as well as educated around the pricing of property at this present moment?
Oh, absolutely. I think our purchasers today, like never before, are very well informed with the market. They do have access to ready information through property search information, and often they are studying the market a little bit more harder than the vendor, and they know what's coming on and what it's priced at.
They've certainly got more tools these days to be able to research the market than in previous years.
That's right.
Now, with Adelaide itself being named as, one of the most livable cities to be in, and of course one of the most affordable, do you see that as a big growth push for Adelaide?
Well, one of the amazing things is the secret's finally out. Our jewel of the crown has now been discovered. We certainly are under the spotlight, not only from interstate investors, overseas investors, but people perhaps in those congested eastern seaboard cities are looking at a very favourable and affordable lifestyle.
It certainly is the 20-minute city when you've lived in some of the other cities on the eastern seashore, as you've mentioned.
Yes.
I know, Greg, that you have extensive knowledge of the Iron Triangle. Where do you see us going there?
Look, certainly the Iron Triangle as a location, the volume of sales has been down somewhat. I think that the marketplace is very expectantly and excitingly looking forward to the mineral activity of the mining industry through there. Without a doubt, if the Olympic Dam area should start removing the minerals out of the ground, big things are going to happen.
With the minerals being moved out of the ground, you see that that's a growth for the whole South Australia. Where do you see that actually moving along? I know places like Whyalla had started to move, then stopped. Where do you see that going?
Well, look, there's been a recent rare earth discovery taking place, and I understand there was a recent announcement for a significant processing factory to be under construction in Whyalla. I think without a doubt it's poised for big things. It's come off the boil a little bit over the last 12 to 18 months, but looking over the horizon somewhat, I think our towns of Port Pirie, Port Augusta, Whyalla and Lincoln are going to take us by surprise somewhat with the potential for capital growth. Yeah,
I think it's one of those things we actually have to watch and see what happens, and I think 2011 is going to be a very interesting year. The experts, if we're listening to them out there, are telling us we're working into a softening market, but it is a normal marketplace for us. For practitioners, we're still pushing forward. Thanks, Greg, for your insight into the market at the present moment. But stay with us. There's more later on. We're going to be answering some emails from some of our clients out there. But now or more on being one of Adelaide being the most livable city.
Well, hello everyone and welcome to our fireside chat. Joining me today is Nathan Payne, who is the Executive Director of the Property Council of Australia and the SA Division. Welcome, Nathan.
Hello Tim, how are you?
Very well, good to have you here.
Thank you.
And I guess we're here to talk about the latest national survey which has been conducted where Adelaide became noted as the most livable city in Australia.
Absolutely. So the Property Council late last year, in September, October, ran a nationwide poll of Australians asking them what they think about the city in which they live. So it was run by Ozpoll, a partner of ours in this program, so a reputable polling company, polled 4,000 people across the country, about 600 people in Adelaide, and asked them a range of questions about what they think of their city. So what they think of their public transport system, what they think about congestion on the roads, the state and the quality of public open spaces, questions like that.
With some of the outcomes being out in amongst the media and so forth, do you think this will encourage people to actually move to Adelaide?
We know, for example, that affordable housing is actually one of the key drivers for people moving. The other driver is, of course, economic opportunity.
Certainly.
So if we can provide somebody with a job that is comparable to a job in Sydney, and they can move here and live 5 minutes or in the city, or 5-minute walk from the city, or near the beaches or in the hills, for a quarter of the price that it would cost them in Sydney, they'll be here in a flash.
Naturally.
We know that. So I think there's no question in my mind that this is one of the key things that we can use to attract people. We just need to do a bit more in terms of selling it to people in Sydney, in Melbourne and in Brisbane, that they should be here.
Where do we need improvement?
I think one of the key results where we need improvement in South Australia, and it wasn't a huge surprise, was transactional taxes. It was one of the big things when people were rating the performance of the state government, and South Australian government actually rated higher than any other state government across the country, which was an interesting result. But transactional taxes rated really poorly.
So the likes of stamp duties and...
Yeah, so stamp duties. From Property Council's perspective, property taxes are 43% of the state government's own state revenue. It's a huge, it's grown from sort of $1 billion to $2.5 billion thereabouts in property taxes, much of which is stamp duties. We need to get those down. We need to, if we want to ensure housing affordability into the future, we need to get those taxes down. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more, naturally. So how does the Property Council use the results that have been produced moving forward in both a marketing fashion and strategic fashion?
Well, strategically, as I've said, we've sat down with a few ministers' offices and talked them through the results. We've provided it to both the government and the opposition, and over the next 6 months we'll be sitting down with them and looking at where are the areas of performance that perhaps isn't quite as good as we'd like it, so on transactional taxes, and we'll sit down with them and work out, well, what can we do to fix that?
To see the entire interview with Nathan Payne, you can tune into TOOP TV now. Now, more Behind the Blinds.